And good morning to Rashesh Shah, Chairman and CEO of the Edelweiss Group. And good morning to you, Rashesh. How are you doing?
Hi, Arnav. Good morning to you. All well?
You're always looking so
Thank you.
positive. You know, Rashesh is a fitness freak, and I have a feeling that he's just had this 1 or 2 hour run or a swim this morning, while Suhail, on the other hand, believes that Rashesh makes up for everything that he ought to be doing. He's luxuriating in Goa as usual. So good morning to both of you, my good friends. Suhail, take a cue from Rashesh. Go for a 2 hour jog tomorrow morning, okay? Tomorrow will come.
If I had so much of money to worry about, I would be jogging all my life. Rashesh needs to jog. I don't.
But sentiment is good, Suhail, isn't it? I mean, this morning sentiment is good. Markets open well. Everyone's taking positions. Everyone's excited.
The expert here is Rashesh, but from a consumer point of view, from a marketing point of view, I think, the sentiment is very, very good. It's very robust. Also, you know, Nirmala Sitharaman, for all said and done, has come across as a very empathetic finance minister over the years. She's not someone used to hyperbole. She's not someone who shoots her mouth off. You know, there's a lot of dhairya, there's a lot of gravitas about her. Also, industry, be it CII, be it people like Rashesh, who are the experts, have recognized that the government is up against severe challenges. So a lot of people have also given government some leeway. And to be fair to the government, look at the world around you, Arnab. The world around us has collapsed. Economies have been in tatters. The economic survey talks about manufacturing having grown at 15%. These are great signs of an economy that is doing well in spite of all the constraints laid down by the pandemic. I think we need to cut our government some slack. The stock market, to my mind, you know, I'm not a great believer in their logic because it defies all logic all the time. But it's a bellwether for sentiment. And as you rightly said, the sentiment is good. Overall, I think India is in an insurmountable position. Our economy is on a good track. And if the budget has a little bit of pain, we'll have to take that pain because the government has also been up against the wall. You know, I have to congratulate the government in terms of what they've done with infrastructure projects. The fact that they continue to spend in order to continue to provide employment. These are great signs of an empathetic government. Now, you know, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Yeah. But I have a lot of optimism from this.
No, I think you know, we can keep talking just figures, broad market index trends, your currency exchange rates. People can complain about the unemployment numbers, FDI, etc. But the big picture is what I want to look at. You see, Rashesh, I think the sense I get, and speaking to all the experts this morning, has been that we ought to be, all our parameters are looking good. We worked very hard to restore a sense of health. That even those people who were slashing our ratings are now looking at us with a greater amount of respect. So I think Forex reserves, GST collections, for example, you know, gross GST collection crossing 1.27 lakh crores. That's a huge indicator that came in recently. So the indicators are good. Do we just need to steady our innings, or do we need to introduce, as they've been saying, a booster shot?
I think the government can afford to be bold. And as I think you very correctly said, the sentiment is very good. India is actually one of the few growth bright spots in the world. I think in 22, we might be the fastest growing large economy in the world. And, you know, a couple of things we don't appreciate as well. I think the last 2 years, the government has actually navigated the COVID crisis very well. They've not overused the stimulus. If you see, most of the other large governments have overused the stimulus. So their hand is empty. While the government still holds the cards, as you said, GST collections, tax collection, IIP, all of them are on an uptick. I think the government has room. And with the Air India privatization, with the LIC IPO, the elbow room, the ammunition available to the government is going to go up a lot more in the coming year. So government can afford to be bold. They have been more conservative than other governments in a good way. I think not using up
what is bold, Rashesh? What is bold? Are you talking about spending? Because we're doing this in the backdrop of the fact that the 6.8% fiscal target is easily achievable. And that's what the Economic Survey 22 indicated, that it's easily achievable.
I think it should be exceeded.
You think
When
it
I
should
say
be
bold,
exceeded?
I think they can go for 8% or so. They have the room to spend. They have the investors are also very positive if they spend more. And I think this is the year government should not hold back because last 2 years they have not spent. RBI has eased off liquidity and interest rate, but Arnav, what happens? RBI measures helps what I call the upper half of the economy, the more formal sector. The government intervention, because everywhere in the world the monetary policy is for the formal sector, the fiscal policy is for the informal sector. So the government spending, the government programs will help the bottom half of the economy who really need help. The top half of the economy, the stock market, the corporates, the organized sector, they are doing well. It's the SMEs, the unorganized sector, the rural sector who need help, and government has to spend. RBI can't do any more, a lot more on that. Government will have to check, and I would say they should. I think a fiscal deficit of between 7.5 to 8 is also all right. If the government has the room to spend, I think they should go ahead and spend
Well,
in this year.
that's very significant. So take your chances is what Rashesh shares, and I think the government's taking its chances. When they launched the Gati Shakti master plan, infrastructure plan, multinodal connectivity to more than 1,200 industrial clusters, including 2 defense corridors across the country, it was 100 lakh crore. So the government is ready to put its money where its mouth is. But is there the money, Rashesh? Do we have that?
I think they have the money. I think they have the room to spend a lot more. I think liquidity conditions are still very benign. Of course, rates are going to go up, but I think all that is priced in. We saw last week the Fed announcement has been absorbed by the markets all over the world fairly well. So the government has the room, plus the economy has the momentum. I think currently, as you say, carpe diem or, go with the wind, because the economy is turning around. I think one of the few other things we don't realize is after almost 8 years slowdown, from 2012-13 onwards, the economy has been on a slowing down mode. And then obviously ILFS happened and then COVID happened. So we had a
Yeah, it's been on for 2 years.
medium-term decline and a short-term decline.
Yeah.
All three have got reversed. And I think the animal spirits are back.
Yeah.
The momentum is back, and this is a time not to hold back.
I think that point I want to take off Sohail before I go to the break. When he said ILFS, we almost forgot that there was this whole NBFC crisis, an atmosphere of uncertainty before COVID hit. I'm talking about the period November, maybe October, November, December 2020, first 2 months of 21. In that sense, it's been 2 years almost.
Yeah, but
actually, it's been 3 years. If you see, ILFS happened in 2018.
If you look at ILFS, then uncertainty for 3 years, I agree. So when you're coming out of uncertainty on good indicators after 3 years, you have the leg room to take bold decisions. But will the government do that, Sohail?
See, my worry is that if we didn't have elections on our heads, then there would have been even greater leeway. Please understand, ultimately, it is politics that decides everything in our country, including the budget. Number one. Number two, Rashesh and you rightly talked about ILFS. I think the government was faced with an insurmountable amount of dirt when they took over. And they've had to do an enormous amount of cleanup. We've had to clean up our banking system, our financial system. We've had to make people more accountable, the bankruptcy code. I mean, for God's sake, the problem, Arnab, with BJP is they will only be remembered for Ram Mandir and, Kashi, in spite of all the good work that they've done elsewhere. And that is a communication tragedy that these blokes face. Look at all that has been actually achieved. You've cleaned up a lot of the bad stuff that was happening in corporate India. You've been able to disinvest without all the noise that used to earlier afflict any disinvestment process. Air India has gone back to where it belongs. You are even talking of further PSU disinvestment. All this will pump in a lot of money into the government. But what people don't realize is that when you're disinvesting, 2 things are happening. One is you're earning money by virtue of disinvestment. You're also saving a lot of money that you were spending on these PSUs for no return. So I think it's a double whammy benefit that the government will benefit from.
Well, you said if there's going to be no elections, that's a critical thing. Not going to happen. We're going to look at the political climate next. Rashesh, thank you very much. Sohail, please do stay as I go to our political panel with M.R. Venkatesh on the screen, ladies and gentlemen, and we have Ghanshyam Tiwari of the SP, Nalin Kohli.